Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up showtime as Liverpool gear up for an absolutely massive game in the Premier League this weekend. It could not be bigger. It is by all means the most important game we've faced so far this season, as we, of course, you all know by now, will be facing off against Manchester United at home at 4:30 on Sunday afternoon, with Manchester United having a crucial 3-point lead now over us in the table. It is maybe not do or die. I don't think if Liverpool lose this game, that's the season done and we can abandon our title aspirations. But it will certainly set the tone for the second half. You know, if we can get a win and get back on level terms with them, then it becomes a real race between the two of us. Whereas if, you know, God forbid, Manchester United win this game and go 6 points clear, then it becomes, you know, a cat and mouse game. It becomes all about us trying to chase them and reduce their tally. And that is not a position you want to be in, even though the one thing that has been interesting this season is any team that has taken the lead at the top of the table has not stayed there for long. It seems the pressure sets in and the way the season's going with the games coming so thick and fast, if you do get into a little bit of a bad run, then that can stretch to more than just the one game. You can have a couple of bad results and that'll send you plummeting back down the table. And we've seen it with Spurs, of course. They had the lead for a while. Now with Liverpool as well, I don't think we can avoid the fact that we have very much squandered the lead that we had around about a month ago. We were in a solid position at the top of the table, and that is now no longer the case. We're behind Manchester United. If City win their games in hand, they go ahead of us as well. So it's maybe not a position you want to be in for a very long time, because the pressure, it seems to be, just becomes unbearable, and fingers crossed that becomes the case for Manchester United this weekend. But the fact of the matter is, we do not want to be 6 points behind them, and we have now got a golden opportunity when things aren't going our way as well. And that's a really interesting thing going into this game for the first time in a few years now. I think Liverpool are almost the underdogs. I think it's fair to say we've still, of course, got the better manager and the better players, but on form alone and, of course, league positions as well, Manchester United are in a more favourable position. They're playing better than they were at the start of the season. They're getting definitely much better results. They've got real momentum behind them. There's, you know, the title chat has just started. It feels like the whole squad is kind of coming together and rallying around this challenge of trying to mount a serious assault on the Premier League title race. It's all going right for them at the moment. Whereas for Liverpool, victory against Aston Villa in the cup aside, although there were issues with that game as well, it's been a pretty rotten run of results. Of course, 2 points from our last available 9 in the Premier League is not good enough regardless of the opposition you play. But it's interesting that Liverpool have now got a different challenge. We're not playing against another team that you'd expect to necessarily go for a low block, or a team that's seeing us as a free hit. We're playing against a team that is much more likely to go toe-to-toe with us. And also, I think the kind of freshness of the challenge, the fact that it's not the same problems that we faced against the teams like Southampton, like Newcastle, like West Brom, might actually work in our favour, because, as I said in the past, Man U have been the underdogs over the last few fixtures for maybe the last almost 3 years. I think Liverpool have been the better side going into the games, and that has worked in Man U's favour, because they've kind of allowed the opposition to crumble under the pressure, to feel too much of an onus on them to take control of the game and try and go out and get 3 points, because it's very difficult to win this fixture. It's a game that gets drawn a lot these days because both teams are very, very cautious. And as a result, it becomes very difficult to actually, you know, you can be better than the opponent, but to be better enough that you create goal-scoring chances and score those chances is something that's been a little bit rare over the last few years. And so as a result, going in as the favourites actually puts a hell of a lot of pressure on you. We've seen it with Liverpool in the past. They've drawn games at Anfield, lost games at Old Trafford, drew at Old Trafford last season when they were in the absolute form of their lives, because the pressure of being the better team can just get to you. And we've got to cross our fingers now that finally it's Man U's turn to feel that pressure, and Liverpool's turn to feel the freedom of being the underdog in this tie, being the team that maybe people don't expect to win and can therefore spring a little bit of a surprise. So, like I said, I think it'll definitely be a different dynamic to usual, and I'll come on to exactly how I think it's going to play out a little bit later on in the video. But first of all, Jurgen did hold his press conference today, and in terms of team news, There's nothing massively positive. You know, the big one is, of course, whether or not Joel Matip's going to be available. It's looked over the last week or so like he's probably going to lose his battle to be fit enough for this game. Jurgen said in his press conference today that he will be assessed before the match, so there's still a chance that he becomes available. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't trained yet, and even if he does have a couple of sessions before the game on Sunday afternoon, personally, I just think it's too big of a game to be throwing him in. And when you look at the hefty bulk of fixtures we've got coming up, you know, weekends and midweeks for the next month or so, we could really do with Joel Matip being available for all of those games. And I get the feeling that if he's half fit and you chuck him in for this game, yeah, he might get through the 90 minutes. Yeah, he'll probably improve us as a team, and that might actually, you know, help us get a result over the line. It could make all the difference in terms of points and therefore in terms of the title race as well. But I feel like if he plays this weekend, he probably doesn't play in midweek against Burnley. He probably doesn't play against Man U in the Cup next weekend. He maybe doesn't play against Spurs in a week and a half's time. So you've got to think a little bit more long term, even though, of course, there's almost not a point thinking long term if we're going to be 6 points behind Manchester United. You've got to bear in mind that this is not only a 6-pointer, but also a chance to lay a marker down, lay a psychological blow on a key opponent. And with that in mind, I think there is a possibility that Jurgen goes with Joel Matip. I think anyone else we're playing this weekend, Burnley, West Brom, even Tottenham or Everton or anyone like that, we don't risk it. We play someone else and we work our way around it. But because it's United, because they're in their position they're in, and because we're in the position we're in, and because we just need to win the game, there's a chance Jurgen just goes, sod it. Sod it, I'll play Joel Matip, and we'll cross the bridge of whatever happens to him during the game and after the game, after the full-time whistle's gone. There's a chance he plays, but personally, I can't see it happening. I think Jurgen will have spent the entire week looking at how Matip's prepared and thinking of ways to get around his absence and ways to set up tactically to hurt Manchester United that don't involve Joel Matip in the side. We also got an update on Naby Keita. Jurgen said it's far too early for him. It looks like we're going to play it very safe. That's something that the manager spoke about, sort of saying that we've had multiple players this season get injuries or knocks, nothing that requires surgery or braces or anything like that. They can still walk, they can still jog, really, but obviously they can't play Premier League football, and they've been kind of rushed back a little bit once the pain's slowed down a little bit. And yes, they can play on it, but what's happened is the fixtures are so constant and so intense that, you know, if say that player starts playing well, they automatically become a shoo-in into the starting 11 because of some of the issues we've had selection-wise, and then as a result they pick up an injury because they're playing 2 games a week, and then we're back to square one. I think it's happened with Naby Keita, it's happened with other players in the side as well, and I think we're at a situation now where we've just got to say, you know what, we play it safe with everyone. We play it safe with everyone, and that includes Naby Keita. So as a result, I think we're just going to be a lot more careful with his recovery from injury, and hopefully look towards maybe that last 3 months of the season and say the target is not to get him back in a week or 2 weeks or for this particular fixture, but to make sure that in the run-in, when it really comes down to it, Naby Keita and the rest of the squad as well, as much as we can, are all fit and available. So with that in mind, Naby Keita will not be playing this weekend. So as for how I think Liverpool are actually going to line up then, I think it is almost definitely going to be Alisson Becker in goal. Here's hoping that he can build on his positive goal output in this fixture, of course, having got an assist in the same game last season. That would be fantastic to see that again. In front of him, I think it's definitely going to be Fabinho as the left-sided centre-half. Robertson comes in at left-back. Trent Alexander-Arnold will play at right-back, you know, last-minute catastrophes permitting with all 3 of those. And then I think the centre-half is going to be Reece Williams, and it's because of how I think this game is going to play out. Like I said, Manchester United are riding a wave at the moment, and with that in mind, they're going to be coming to Anfield smelling blood, thinking this is the best opportunity they've probably had for a few years and might have for a few years after this as well, to get a win on enemy territory, to make a massive statement by ending Liverpool's fantastic home unbeaten run that's been going on for nearly 4 years now, and to also give themselves a huge boost in the title race that would really cement themselves as serious challengers and maybe even the front runner in the race for the Premier League title. And with that in mind, I think their tactics change. Even if Ole goes into this game and says play it the same as last season, I don't think they'll be able to, because they will. If they get one chance, then they'll start looking for another. And if they beat Liverpool's press once, they'll start trying to do it again and again and again. And they will look to actually pile the pressure on Liverpool a bit. And also, it's the way they've had to play over the last few games. You look back at games against like Burnley, they've had to deal with low blocks. They've had to play the entire game in the opposition half, as Liverpool have done as well. but they're now settling into that kind of rhythm, and their players are getting into form, playing in that kind of style. So I get the feeling that it will be much more of an even game than it's maybe been in the past. And with that in mind, I don't think you need Jordan Henderson as a deep lying player at centre half. I think the reason Henderson plays over Reece Williams or Nat Phillips is, first of all, it's a pace thing. Of course, if we're playing a high line, then Reece Williams is a little bit slow, Nat Phillips is even slower, and they can get beaten for pace, as we saw with Williams against Aston Villa being the most recent example with the Louis Barry goal. And also in terms of positional intelligence as well, you have to be very, very alert. You have to be completely on it in terms of reading opposition runs as well, and knowing when to start dropping, knowing when to start following a run, or when to hold the offside trap. And Henderson, with his experience, and he's probably a little bit faster as well, and he understands this system better than some of those academy lads. With that in mind, it kind of made sense for him to play centre half. But first of all, for this game, I want him in midfield. I think he's so important. We missed that against Southampton. We missed having him as a driving force as a number 8. And also, like I said, I don't think the dynamic's going to be the same as it has been normally against Man United. I think they will get at us, and I think there will be points in the game where we are almost happy to say, you know what, have a go, try and beat us, try and play the game in our half, and then playing someone like Reece Williams or Nat Phillips as well doesn't become so much of a problem, because they're not crap, they're not rubbish defenders. They have shown that they are decent enough for the Premier League. I think they're still a little bit wet behind the ears, and like I said, they've got issues. Reece Williams' pace is a problem. The same goes for Nat Phillips as well. They're still working out how to play as a defender within the Liverpool system. Nat Phillips also maybe isn't as comfortable on the ball as some of our more senior centre halves. But they're still decent enough that, I mean, looking at Manchester United when they've played against us, Harry Maguire, not a great defender. I don't think he's brilliant in a high line. He gets beaten on the turn by quick, fast, intelligent players. But if you just ask him to stand in the 18-yard box and head balls away, he's brilliant, and he could do it all day. And Man U have got big wins against big teams with that kind of strategy. So I think we almost need to try and play them at their own game here, and that means playing Reece Williams, who is also good on the ball. You know, I don't think it maybe takes away as much of our ability to play out from the back as it does if you put Nat Phillips in. He's a little bit faster than Nat Phillips, and also just, I think, more in the mould of a Liverpool centre-half. It doesn't upset the balance as much, and I think other players don't feel like they have to compensate as much as they do with Reece Williams alongside them as they do alongside Nat Phillips. So I think Reece Williams does start. It'll be a bold call if he does, but that's what I can see Jurgen Klopp doing for this game. And then if you move up into the midfield, I think the most deep-lying player is Thiago, who was just sublime in the game against Aston Villa. I know they were kids and all that, but the fact of the matter is, the other first team players weren't doing it, and he came on and he did the job. And he did it brilliantly, you know, creating from deep, unlocking defences, seeing the entire team, doing things that were unexpected and risky and caught the opposition off guard. And that stopped us playing in a sort of monotonous way that became very predictable and very easy to defend against. I think he has to start this game, and I think he'll be very useful in that deep lying role. And it also frees up Henderson, as long as he's not playing centre half, to be more of a marauding number 8. And especially in these big games, Jordan Henderson is absolutely fantastic like that. It's one of the reasons we won the Champions League. Looking back on that game against Barcelona, the 4-0, I know that's going back quite a while now, but it's sort of one of those really key games when Henderson started to make his name as a number 8 in this Liverpool team once again under Jurgen Klopp. But he was so crucial to that. His running, his pressing, his energy, the way he marshals the team as well. He controls the game and brings the standard of everyone else up from the middle of the park, and he just keeps everything ticking over in midfield absolutely fantastically. And I think Thiago and Henderson is a good deep line midfielder. He's very good at that role. Thiago can also play further forward on the edge of the box, almost like a Kevin De Bruyne type figure. But with the way that I think this game is going to go in mind, I want Henderson, you know, snapping at people's heels in the centre of the park, and I want Thiago being, you know, the conductor of the orchestra from the very middle where he can see as much of the pitch as possible. And then I think the midfield is completed by Gini Wijnaldum, who, you know, maybe hasn't been brilliant over the last few games, but you could say that of pretty much any Liverpool player. And home games against big teams are generally Gini Wijnaldum's speciality. You only have to look back at, you know, there's countless, but again, bringing up the Barcelona game as well. He loves these kind of matchups. He loves, I think, the space and the freedom he gets to be an all-round centre midfielder in these matches. So I think Jurgen will be starting him alongside Thiago and Jordan Henderson. And then in front of them, There is an argument for rotation with the front three. I think you look at Shaqiri, who came on and did well against Aston Villa. I think in the small chances that he's had over the last few games, Minamino has looked like he offers something a little bit different, sometimes a bit faster or more cute in terms of his technical ability. But from the start, I think you have to go with the big guns. You have to trust them. And also, listen, if Man U are going to come at us a little bit and maybe even try and play the game in our half, then there's no one you want on the break more than you want players like Sadio Mane running at them, Mo Salah running at them, and then Firmino winning the ball back, castling people, chasing things down, and then playing Hollywood passes to the other two to help them score goals. So I think it is going to have to be Salah, Firmino, and Mane as your front three. So taking just a quick look at Manchester United then, as I said, I think they are going to approach this game, again, whether they like it or not, in a different way to they have done when visiting Anfield in recent years. And I think one of the key things that will change is they will probably bin off the back five. They've used it at Anfield before. They've used it multiple times in big games. But given the fact that they are maybe coming to Anfield riding a wave, a bit more buoyant, a bit more confident in their ability to match Liverpool across the park, and also looking back to the last time they used the back five was when they got pummeled by RB Leipzig in the Europa League, I think Solskjaer will probably opt to stick with the back four, because also the form they're in that form playing a back four. You don't want to say to those players who think that they're doing well, who think that everything is going their way and they're playing brilliantly at the moment, that they now have to change, that they now have to adapt. That almost is a psychological blow from the manager to say, you're doing well, but you're still not good enough as you are for this match, so we're going to have to change things around. And the back five, while it can be seen as, a clever tactical move and it can affect all areas of the pitch, at its most basic level, it's often used when you're just trying to play defensive and when you think that your defence as a four isn't going to be able to do the job. So I think with that in mind, Solskjaer probably goes for the back four, which is very, very good news, because like I said, I think it will lead Man U to take the game to us a bit more, to maybe try and play the game in our half. And I think we may actually be entirely happy with that, because our players are sick of dealing with low blocks. It's just not working for them up against that kind of defence at the moment. They want someone that they're able to run in behind. They want someone who they can, Mane and Salah want to be running off of someone's shoulder, driving a, one full-back rather than a full-back, a centre-mid, a winger and a centre-back all trying to mark them at once. They want to be in those one-on-one battles. They will have been eyeing up Man U players like Salah, will have been looking at Shaw. He'll have been looking at Maguire as well, because he wants to get inside and play that more central striker role. Mane will be licking his lips looking at Wan-Bissaka. They will want to be in those battles, and they can only be in those battles if Man U take the game to us. And like I said, I think they will. I'm not saying that's Man U as lambs to the slaughter. I'm not saying that Man U are doing the wrong thing there. I think it makes sense for them to do it. If they were to switch to a back five, like I said, it would almost be a sign of weakness, a sign that Solskjaer doesn't think they're good enough, and that's not the message that he wants to send out at the moment. But it will also make things easier for Liverpool. In general, it will probably just make the game more of a contest. And of course, the one player that we do have to watch out for the most is going to be Bruno Fernandes. Jurgen mentioned him in his press conference. He was asked about him. He has once again won the Premier League Player of the Month award recently for his performances in December, and he is so important to Man U. Everything goes through him, even when it's not necessarily him on the ball. You look back at maybe the game against Leeds where McTominay gets 2 very early goals. He almost gets those goals, I think, because Leeds are so focused on stopping Bruno Fernandes that they allow themselves to be dragged in his direction, and it makes the space for a deep runner. And that's something Liverpool have got to be very, very careful of, that they manage Fernandes, and not just manage him, but manage the influence he has on the rest of the Manchester United team. You don't just do what you do against someone like Messi, where you just put multiple players on him, mark him out the game, and then deal with everyone else. You have to look at what Fernandes is trying to do, and he is as much trying to create things himself as he is trying to create space for his fellow midfielders, the wingers, the number 9, to come into the game and be effective. So when, say Bruno Fernandes suddenly drops a little bit deeper, we can't automatically have Thiago and Fabinho going, right, we go with him, we stop him, because that's obviously going to create space for someone else to make that deep run, and then either Bruno Fernandes or someone else is going to pick out that run and Liverpool get diddled by it. So we've got to be very, very alert to everything that Fernando Fernandes does to make this Manchester United team better, because it's not just penalties. Yeah, that is one of his strong suits. It's not just, dinked through balls, dinked balls over the top into the box or killer free kicks or anything like that. His end product is, of course, brilliant, but he makes the whole Manchester United team better. And if you can work out how he does that, and most importantly, work out how to stop him doing that, then it gives Liverpool a much better chance of getting something out of this game. So with that in mind, if you want a prediction, personally, I still think Liverpool are going to win it. I know I'm always optimistic on this channel. I don't think I've ever gone into a game predicting a draw or God forbid, a loss. I'm always going in thinking, you know what, I can see Liverpool somehow getting the result here, because generally Liverpool can find a way. They've got enough ways of doing it. They've got now Thiago, who can pick a lock. They've got Henderson, who can just barrel through people. They've got quick, fast forwards who can burn people in one-on-ones. They've got, well, they used to have threat on set pieces. That's the one thing that we maybe have lost, and that makes it more difficult to maybe pick up results when we're not playing as well. But we have enough ways to beat Manchester United, and I think we have more ways of beating them than they have of beating us. Like I said, a lot of things go through Bruno Fernandes. They can also maybe look to sit deep, defend the box, and then try and hit us on the counter with pace of players like Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial. But if you can deal with those kind of threats, then you're all right. Whereas I think Liverpool, if they're on their day, and that is of course the most crucial thing, if they're hitting form and all the players are delivering their absolute best, then we can beat Man United in all kinds of ways, and hopefully one of them is enough to get all 3 points. Let me know how you think it's going to go down in the comments below. I'm fascinated to know how Liverpool fans are feeling going into this game, because it is, of course, like I said, a very different vibe to the usual games against Man United we've seen over the last years. So let me know how you think it's going to go. Apart from that, that is all for today's video. So thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, as always, you know what to do. Hit that like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days and weeks. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. And I'll be back on Sunday evening after Liverpool have hopefully returned to the top of the Premier League table. Until then, bye for now.